So today we're going to be covering creating a seed compost, which is a compost for just growing your seedlings. And I'm putting the seed compost into pots, so preparing these trays of pots, then putting the seeds into the pots, so actually sowing your seeds, and a bit of planting out as well. Seeds don't actually need loads of nutrients, but what they do need is they need water, warmth, and they need air. That's why seed compost doesn't have to be super nutritious, but it does have to be very light and well drained. So you can buy it, it's expensive, or you can just make it. We're going to be taking our topsoil, which is quite lumpy, you know, it's got twigs and roots in, sieving it, and then we're going to be mixing this with some sand, roughly 3 parts soil to 1 part sand. Something else that we're also putting into our seed mix, this is volcanic rock dust. It just contains a lot of different minerals and things. We generally just put a handful of that into a bucket, mix it around. And there's other ways of doing it. You can use regular compost, but if you're using normal compost, I do 50-50, so 50% normal compost with 50% sand. So we've sieved our soil, we've mixed it with our sand, we've made our seed compost. Now we're going to prepare the pots. So the secret garden, we generally sow our seeds in small pots and grow plug plants to plant them out. So this means that the plants just got a much better chance of surviving being eaten by pests or chickens, which is very likely in our garden. So the next stage, really simple, is just filling up the pots with our seed mix, like so. You can also sow in seed trays, so you can get loads of seedlings in a small tray. It is more labour intensive, because then there's another stage of pricking out the seedlings and then repotting those a second time. So at home I just use whatever we've got to hand. Things like margarine tubs and yogurt pots. You can use toilet rolls as well. If you look on the internet, you can make your own pots out of newspaper. And the advantage of that and toilet rolls is you can just plant them directly into the ground and they will rot down. You can sow seeds at lots of different times of year. As long as they've got enough warmth, they'll probably germinate, but it doesn't mean that they're going to produce a good plant. This is why we have sowing calendars, which tell you the best time of year to plant different seeds. The seed should be sown to a depth about 2-3 times deeper than the size of the seed itself. So if the seed is only like 1 millimetre big, you literally just need a sprinkling of compost on top. Whereas if it's like a pea or a garlic or broad bean, you know, a garlic is a couple of centimetres big, so you would sow that, say, 6 centimetres deep. So in these small pots, we generally do 1 seed in each pot. There are some things that you can sow lots of seeds in the same hole, and actually you produce a bigger crop of veg in that same space. The tomatoes, you really just need to do 1 on the surface and then just sort of cover it over. Firm down the compost a little bit, because the seed likes to be in contact with a lot of particles of compost. Always label the tray with the variety that you're sowing and the date. So you can buy labels, or you can just cut up old plastic containers and use those. Water them with a watering can. There you go. And then you're really just aiming to keep the surface of the soil damp. They don't need loads of water. If you've sown more than 1 seed and you only want 1 plant to grow, you might need to thin it out, pick out all the weaker ones and just leave the stronger one. You can tell when it's ready to plant out. For most plants, it's when they've got 3 to 5 of their adult leaves, which look more like the mature plants, then they're ready to plant out. Generally it's around 4 weeks after you've sowed them, but for some plants they need longer. So if it's a fruiting plant that you eat the fruit, tomatoes, aubergines, squash, cucumber, then they need to grow a little bit bigger. There's 3 plants in here, so I'm going to try and separate them. If I've managed to break off the compost with all the roots in, which is good, but if it was just the plant and its roots, hold the plant by its leaves rather than the roots, because the roots have lots of tiny little root hairs and it takes a lot longer for roots to grow back, and it's much easier for the plant to grow another leaf. Sometimes when you grow things in a greenhouse they get a little bit leggy, they get a bit tall, so it's good if you can plant it to a slightly deeper depth than the compost in the pot, so it just gives it a bit more support. And some plants will actually grow new roots out of the stem, so just a little bit deeper, and make sure you firm it in. I find sometimes if you firm it in you end up making a little bowl almost, and then when you water it, the water just sort of goes in that bowl and it will just go down to the roots. So I think that's it.